Yo, it is episode 1 of What's the Deal? I am here with Paige, Jarlin, Sammy, Jamie, and Victoria, and I am the host. My name is Evan, and today we're going to be doing a deep dive on Kendrick Lamar and some of his catalog. So to start off, our first question is, before Kendrick's generation of rappers, mental health was very rarely discussed in lyrics. What were your initial thoughts about including hip-hop in this course, and why was this the case? Paige?
Oh, me first. Okay. My initial thoughts, I don't know. I didn't know about Kendrick until this unit. So when, the name was familiar, but I was like, oh, I don't know any of his music. It's probably like what everyone else raps about, money and girls and drugs and whatever, which is like sort of the case. But then once you actually look at it, I was like, oh, okay, it's different. He's like telling a story, and it's not like, oh yeah, F this girl, whatever. It's like about loss and grief. And so I was like, oh, okay, this is different than what I've heard.
I think it's like so easy to just assume, like, you hear the lyrics, like, especially if you just hear it on like the radio, it's just like, he's just talking about like money and pussy, but it's like, it's not the case. And, like, he does talk about it, but you can tell he talks about it from a space of like, okay, I've been in this before, and like, I'm gonna talk about what it actually is. Does anybody else have?
I think in like the sense of like teaching it in this class, like what he could have done, he could have just had like, he could have picked 2 like pop artists and like, gone with that. But I feel like it was good to choose like such different artists as a way to get all the students to like, connect to it and like take more from the class. Yeah,
I think it was a great way to show that, like, I guess people are people. Like, regardless of what type of music you make, like, you see reoccurring themes regardless of like how somebody portrays them. Like Amy Winehouse is like a singer, Kendrick Lamar is like a rapper, but like they all have similar themes in their music. They just like talk about it differently.
Yeah,
and like they occur differently.
Kind of saying the same things, but getting it out to different people.
Getting out to different people and like
different styles.
Yeah, releasing it in different ways, cater to like whatever their needs may be.
I also feel like normally like, I don't know, like sad music normally you don't see in like hip hop. So I feel like now that like with like the new generation of like rappers and stuff, and especially like Kendrick, I feel like you can see that like what Paige said, like diving deep into the lyrics and like seeing, because whenever you listen to Kendrick, you don't think of like sad. It sounds chaotic, but it doesn't feel like sad in most of the songs. I mean, in some of them they do, like, I don't know, but like some of them have like a slower tempo, but you still don't, I don't know.
I mean, like, to me, all the songs are indirectly sad, but that's not the original emotion.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
But like, I mean, I guess that's just how maybe he is as a person. That's why it comes off that way. But does anybody else have? Y'all have?
I feel like
Go ahead.
Well, I feel like it was good that he included hip hop because like it's like a really popular genre these days.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was good that he included that. So in like Kendrick's music, it really spreads awareness to like what, like his music talks about like his experience like as a colored person. So I feel like it was good that he included that because it like spreads awareness to like what people of color go through, like the different issues and problems they go through every day.
Yeah.
So I think it was good that he included Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, and it kind of just goes back into like just seeing that like everybody, regardless of like, I guess like their position in society, like their social class, their race, like how old they are, we like kind of all go through similar things. And like it might occur in different ways, but it still brings out one thing. Like say like, oh, if I go through like a big breakup or if I go through like a death of a family member, it still might cause me to end up depressed, like regardless of like which situation I'm in. Sammy, what do you?
I think that like with hip hop in general, I often would think of it as more of like an escapist genre, like where you're going to talk about heartbreaking stuff, but in a way that is like symbolic and not directly talking about it. And the way that Kendrick is different is that he will directly say like, I'm gonna kill myself, like,
and that
shit is terrible, in a way that I think that other rappers hadn't before then, where they would sort of imply by like boasting these good things, it's like masking the fact that something's wrong. But to approach it in such a way that's so direct is unique to him, I think.
And that's why I think like he's like the best artist of, it's not even really our generation, it's like a generation kind of above ours, but like I think because he's just the most genuine, like vulnerable, like you said, he'll go and be like, I killed somebody, or like I want to kill myself, but like other rappers, like they'll hint at like being sad or something, but they won't go and directly say it. And like you even see this, like not even just Kendrick and like him with himself internally, but like if you heard the Like That verse from Future, he blatantly called out Drake like 7 times, and he was like so direct. He's like literally so like he just like doesn't care, and like I think that's kind of what we need more of in hip hop. Now for the second question, what Kendrick song that we did discuss in class, which is Swimming Pool, Sing About Me, You, I, Feel or Fear, stood out to you the most? Why and why so? Let's go in like a counterclockwise. So Victoria.
I think that Swimming Pools stood out to me the most. 1, because I already knew the song, and 2, I don't know, it was very repetitive, which that stood out to me, like the, kind of like the chorus stood out to me a lot. And you can really see like his like struggle with like alcohol, and like I feel like that symbolizes like brokenheartedness too, because I feel like a lot of people use alcohol to cope, and the song is like revolves around alcohol, so I feel like it really stood out to me.
Okay.
So the song that stood out to me the most was You, for like the reasons we discussed in class, like the sound of his voice, how he was like crying and gulping, and like the scream in the beginning and stuff like that. But when I was listening to this song in my headphones, I actually noticed something pretty cool. Before the second verse, when the beat switches, the music goes from one headphone to another very rapidly, and it was like this like dizzying feeling. It was very intense, and I feel like that was like what he was trying to convey in the song.
A lot of his like music, it's one thing to hear it out loud, but then it's one thing to go like directly put it in your ears, because it's like when you hear songs like You, or you hear songs like Feel, it's like, oh damn, like he's like genuinely like crying, or like he's literally like, you can like feel his emotions that much more. Sammy?
I really, to Jamie's point with it bouncing back and forth, I appreciate the way that like it's designed to be a personal conversation. Yeah. Because he's definitely expressing something so vulnerable that like for it to literally be made to be with one person in a singular set of headphones is just really,
I think that also just like kind of shows how much he cares about like connecting with people.
Exactly.
Like he connects with so many people, but he does it in a way it's like catering to you, like you said, kind of like one-on-one. But like through it doing that, it reaches masses. It was just kind of just crazy. Jarlin?
The song that stood out to me was Fear, because it like started off slow. He was like, why God, and that was like, he was like saying like, why God, why do you have to put me through these challenges? And like from in the song you could tell like he was saying that he had many fears growing up. And like at 7 years old he feared his mother, and like at 17 he feared like being at the wrong place at the wrong time, basically. And I feel like it showed his story about the things he feared throughout that song, so that's why it stood out to me. I think with Fear, it's just so interesting how you get just so many different perspectives, and how like fear can engulf so many different parts of your life. Like even when like you're like an innocent little kid, you don't even really notice it, but then like it's like, oh, you're just like scared of your mom like being mad at you, or like threatening to like whoop you. But it's like the older you get, it's like this can really affect how you interact in like social situations, and like how you like move around in the world financially. Paige?
Well, I was gonna say You and Fear, but I'll say something else. I'll say Feel. And what we talked about in class, it was his breaking point. Like you could hear it in the song. Like he's losing his mind, and he's like, F all of you, like I'm just a person. And I like how he talks about the cycle of like black families, about the cheating, and then it affecting the children, and then the dad leaving, and then it's just like a constant cycle. And then he's like, I just want to break it. Like I don't want to deal with that. And I feel like I kind of have that in my own life, because I do have like a black dad, And then so it's kind of weird when everyone's like, oh, how's your dad, whatever, and then they're like, oh, like he's still active, and I'm like, is that like a crazy thing that he's still active in my life?
Yeah.
So having it like personally connect to me, I was like, okay, I get it, Kendrick. I got you.
I think it's such like a, I guess, crazy thing for like your for like your dad to be so active or still active in your life, is because like a lot of times in like, or at least to me personally, and like a lot of black people that I know, like I personally, like my dad was like never really active. So like when you do see a dad that like is active, it's just like, oh shit, like that can happen. Like that can be a reality for somebody. I say my favorite song, because I've been listening to Kendrick since I was like, I don't know, like 6. Like every single one of the songs listed have been a favorite of mine at some point, which is why I love Kendrick so much. Is like every song speaks to you depending on your situation in life. But I think Feel is just kind of like Sammy said, it's like it's just like a release, and you just kind of tell he's at like his last breath. He's just like, all right, like I'm tired of this shit, kind of like Paige was saying. And it's kind of just him like not really caring about like what like things actually are. It's just how things occur to him. And you could tell it's like he made this song because for so long you could tell he was catering to like other people's needs and how other people like feel. And this was like him like, okay, like this is time for me to show what I feel. And now for obvious...
Wait.
What?
Sammy didn't go.
Sammy didn't go?
No, I got skipped.
Oh, snap.
That's all right, though. I just wanted to mention the song that stood out to me was Sing About Me.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it was for reasons that we see in later songs as well, where structurally there's like two competing internal versions of Kendrick, where in the song he's talking about like this positive experience that came out of being able to take an example from his past and use it as like the prototype for what it means to come from where I come from.
Yeah.
And then on the other side is like this disastrous relationship that ended up like doing the same thing, the same way of like putting someone as an example ruined it and made it worse for them and their family.
Yeah.
And so he's battling with this like idea of not knowing the right way to go about it. So it's like we see it later on when he's in some of these other songs in the music video, where it's like on one side he has this ability to feel really confident in his ability to tell the story and make a difference, and simultaneously has such this like growing self-hatred for doing that exact thing and like exploiting the people that he comes from. So I just thought that was worth mentioning.
I mean, like, I guess it definitely would be difficult for like, because, like, I feel like he probably feels as if it's his job to tell where he comes from, right? Because a lot of people really don't understand.
Exactly.
And, like, not even, okay, like, they don't understand it, but, like, Kendrick makes music that makes you not only understand it, but you feel it.
Yeah.
And it literally brings you that much closer to him. But it definitely would, like, come off to someone like, hey, you're talking like my sister. She's like, I don't know, she was, like, being used for, like, prostitution or something like that. It's, like, I understand, like, you're trying to represent us and like show the downsides, but at the same time, like this is a family member to me, this is like a sister or a cousin to me, and it's like comes off as kind of disrespectful. So it's just I don't know how much he has to struggle with that balance in his music. But on to the next question. Obviously, rappers mainly focus on lyrics and lyrical delivery. What element other than lyrics do you think stood out most about Kendrick's songs? Why do you think this is the case?
I think that, I feel like Kendrick uses a bunch of background like music and noises, and I feel like that really like completes the song and like encapsulates you in the song. And like you said, like in a you like you feel like a dizzy feeling whenever like you listen to it, because like there's like a pause and there's like background music, like that's all it is. And so it really like completes the song and like makes you feel what he's feeling almost.
Yeah,
I was gonna say pretty much the same thing, like the different layering of sounds. I think it's like kind of to reflect like what's going on in his head. Like he has all this like all these thoughts in his head. He can only get some of them out, and then at some points like music even drowns him out in some parts, and you can't really hear what he's saying. So I think he uses it to like set that sort of mood.
Yeah, kind of like with like the drowning out thing. It just shows how good he is at getting somebody to like understand. Like okay, like when he's like being drowned out in you, that's like him obviously like that's like the alcohol like taking over him, and it's just like such a I don't know, it's just so interesting how well he is at manipulating like the sounds that he's under, and like he works so well with them. It's not just typically like, oh, like Kendrick's rapping on this beat. It's like, no, like Kendrick and this beat are like kind of like dancing together. It's really interesting. Sammy?
I know that the question says that like all rappers are gonna be focusing on vocal delivery, but I think that what Kendrick does is so unique and different in how much it is theatrical delivery. Like it's different than just timing, and the way that it's spoken is so different that
literally like
it's a different echelon of vocal
music. Delivery.
It becomes something else. So I think that that's what stands out the most, because when you think about like who else is going to deliver lines the way that Kendrick does, like
nobody.
Like no one touches it like that.
Yeah.
Like some, especially like more recently, will do like odd inflections in some ways.
Yeah.
But
it
not
doesn't compare.
quite the way that Kendrick does and has since the beginning. So.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of like draws like another case for Kendrick's like he's like the only one. There's no big three, just because like the way he story tells truly isn't like anybody else. And like I feel like for you to like, if you were to act as if there's somebody that competes with him in that, you're just lying. Like you could say like, oh, probably like, oh, like okay, like J. Cole is like he can rap with him, but like in the art of storytelling, there's literally I don't know another human being that can like do it in song form like Kendrick can. Charlene?
Well, I don't really listen to rap, but like from when I hear his music, that like the background noise really stands out to me, and like sometimes he throws like voices in there. Like in one song, I think I heard a lady speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
And then like how she said, I think like when I put it on with my earphones, like sometimes it makes noises out of.
Yeah.
I don't know how to
They
say
kind of,
it.
I forgot the word for it, but I know what you mean. It's when it's just like in one. I literally forgot what it's
like
called.
Offset, but it's
It's literally, and like that's on purpose, because like if you ever like record the music, you can literally go in and it's like a little like kind of like volume slider thing, and you can kind of like turn it on half. Once you turn it on half, then it makes it kind of like go back and forth. I just forgot the name for it,
And
but
I feel like that really sets the mood to like what he wants to tell and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like the mood for the story that he's telling in his song. I feel like the voices and like how you said, like the volume.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it sets the mood for the story.
I feel like he knows like exactly what to do and when to do it to like strike this emotion out of you.
Yes.
And I think that's what he's like so good at. Paige?
Everyone kind of already touched on the topics, but I guess.
Well, I guess just reinforce it then.
Okay. I definitely think the background noises is like top tier. Even though when I first heard it, I was like, what the heck am I listening to? Like I don't remember what song it was, but when he was talking about Compton, you could hear like the busyness, like you were actually there. And I was like, wait, but I can't hear him. And I was like, okay, well, that's the point, because his like past is like drowning his thoughts. And like, I was like, oh, but I didn't rock with it, but I was like, I get it. And then definitely there are some songs where you can hear like the echoing. So it's like he's talking to himself, or it's like he's saying it, but he's like second guessing it in his head, or like his second voice is talking to him too, and like repeating what he's saying. I don't know. You guys covered all the topics.
Yeah, I really don't have
I
don't have anything to say anymore, honestly.
His lyrics are good, but we can't even talk about that.
All right, let's go on to question 4 now. Kendrick's music videos can offer new insight into his music. Your group should watch one of the videos above and discuss it with regard to brokenheartedness. What specific scenes, details, characters, angles, settings stand out, and why? So my group watched You or God is Gangsta, and we're gonna keep going in like the counterclockwise way with Victoria.
Okay, so in the beginning, his body language is very like vulnerable, and you can see like, I feel like the music video really portrays how chaotic it really is in the song, and like, it does a good job of like matching the lyrics to the video. And then he also uses like alcohol again, as like a coping method, which like, I don't know, it also kind of goes along with his body language because he also still is very like vulnerable. So I think the vulnerability really like portrays like his emotions and like his thoughts and what he wants to say with this song and the music video.
Yeah.
So what I noticed was like the way he was moving in the music video, it was like the words were like forcing their way out and he had no control over it. And maybe that was like because of the alcohol or because he had so much to say.
I'll touch on that a little bit later, but
Yeah.
that's a great point. Sammy, what do you?
So what I noticed from the video is that it's really two videos that are kind of spliced together, and the first one is where we're seeing you. And what I really like about that first half is the set design, because it's a room that we don't see windows or doors really, and it's like a room that can't exist. And to me, it comes off as like him being in limbo.
Yeah.
And the way that it's like a round table in the center, and there's a lot of tropes that you see frequently in like horror movies. It's almost as though he's in a seance, like sort of conjuring up this demonic spirit inside of himself, that like this evil that he has in him. And like then when it transitions to the interlude, the second half,
Yeah.
we're seeing that same battle between like, it's like temptation versus purity, as it's like I think that the woman, Lucy, is going to like be representing the devil, because he's making a deal with her. He's making a deal with the devil, basically like selling his soul. And then like the other side is like him being baptized and cleansed. And I think that that's meant to be like what he's, the same battle that I mentioned earlier, like him having this one side that's like him hating himself so much, and then like the salvation of like airing out all his dirty laundry.
I think it just kind of shows how like torn apart an individual can be with their own like self. How like you can like you said, kind of like have this disdain for yourself, but then at the same time like love yourself, or still love yourself to the extent where like, okay, you can like at least represent yourself. Yeah, and I think it's a great point. Jarlin?
Well, in the beginning, like how Jamie had said, he seemed like he was drinking a lot and like getting drunk, and like in the music video you can see how it goes like blurry sometimes. Yeah. So I feel like that represents him like just drinking his feelings away. I guess. Yeah.
I think that's a great point. And then like if you even hear, it's like if this bottle could talk, and then like he kind of like starts like stumbling around, you could definitely tell he's like not kind of like you said, Jamie. It's like something's like come over him. It's not even like. It's kind of like if you ever see like videos of like people at like a black church or something, they'll be like dancing around and yelling. They'll be like, "Oh, like I feel the spirit." And they'll start like dancing like hella. That's kind of what it feels like. It literally feels like it's like something's like pouring out of him. It's kind of like, to me, it just feels like the truth. It feels like the alcohol is like a medium for him to get like the truth out of him, for him to like truly understand himself. And I'll touch on that a little bit later. But Paige?
Okay. So for me, I noticed the drinking, but I also noticed how you can see him go through every like emotion. Like you see him crying, and then when he's like talking or yelling or whatever he is to the camera, you can feel it. I was like, oh, why are you yelling at me? I didn't do anything. And then you can also see him just like, I think he was sitting on the floor, sitting on the chair, whatever. Yeah. And you can see the guilt just on his face. And I was like, oh, wow, he really went through those emotions. Yeah. I felt awful for him. And I feel like he touched on what it's like for alcoholics. Like, they go through the feelings like that. So I think him touching on it, kind of like Amy Winehouse, she drank. And I feel like seeing him do it, you're like, oh, so alcoholics really are like this. Like, they really do just kind of go through it, and it's like echoey in their head. And then with the second part, which was so confusing, I didn't know that there were two parts. It threw me off. Yeah. But when I was watching it, and then I was like, who's Lucy? And then I had to do some researching, because I was like, who is he talking about? And I was like, oh, he's referring to Lucifer. Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. That's crazy. I thought, like what Sammy said, he was fighting, like, with the pure side of him and then, like, the devil. Yeah. But when I was looking at the music video, without listening to the words, I interpreted it as, like, there's another song, I don't remember which one it is, that we're going to talk about, but he talks about women and how he slept with women.
I think it's United in Grief.
Yeah. And so I was thinking, oh, okay, so the devil side of him is, like, just having so much sex that the pain is going away.
Yeah.
But he's trying to fight it so he can be pure, like no drinking, no drugs, and wants to deal with the pain in a sober way. But I don't know. I don't know. It made me question a lot of things.
Yeah, it's definitely a handful, especially for one music video, and just like the iconic like like you see it used all the times in memes and stuff. But it truly does. It, to me, what it feels like an alcohol-induced, like, kind of, like, psychosis. That's just what it sounds like and feels like to me. And it's like, to me, when he's like, loving you is complicated, it's like him, like, talking to himself. It's like the pure side of him talking to the side of him that's, like, lustful. Like, the things that, like, oh, like, he goes and strives for, like we could say again, like money, women, like all the material things. It's like you could tell he's stuck between, like, I guess, enlightenment and, like, being down with, like, I guess, quote unquote, everybody else, like, in his, like, around him in his society. And I think the second half is a song For Sale, and it's just. It's such a great. I'm so glad he like put that with you because it contrasts so perfectly. Because like it's such like a up like beat song. It's like baby when I get you, and then it's just like it's literally just like Lucifer just like rapping their ass off, and like it's just kind of crazy because like to me it just sounds like Temptation, and then it's like it's him. To me, I think about like him sitting down and like. All around him is just like literally just like Lucifer, just like trying to like tempt him, but he like knows that like it's Lucifer, but like he's kind of like, oh, like well maybe I should listen to her, but like no, like he knows he shouldn't, and I think it's just a great contrast to have those two songs in the same music video.
I love the scene where he's sort of sitting there, not even like a full person.
Yeah.
And the girls kind of just are putting their hands all over him, and he falls over and they pick him back up. It's like he's so wrapped up in this lust that he's not even really himself consciously giving into it anymore. It's just ruling him. Yeah. I just love that part.
Jamie?
I also think like with the music video itself, like the way he's able to act like that, like it looks like someone is like actually having a breakdown. Yeah. And I think that's like a testament to how intensely he's like feeling all these emotions to where he can portray it so well and like have it be so convincing.
Yeah. I think there's just so much going on in it. There's so much you can draw from it. And I think like kind of like what Sammy was just saying, like it just shows to me, it feels as if the biggest, I guess, quote unquote, sin or like flaw that he is aware of is his lustfulness, just literally just for women. Because like there's just straight up naked women all over, and those are the people that like putting their hands on him, and you just see recurring themes like throughout his songs. Like we're about to talk about United in Grief, how like he has these issues with like lust, not even just with women, but like issues with lust itself. And I just wanted to say, I feel like You is like a predecessor of like Feel. I feel like it's another release song. It's just, to me, Feel feels like a sober release, and You feels like the release through like a drug or a stimulant like alcohol, or I guess really a depressant, but like release through a substance, I'd rather say. And Feel feels like the sober side of that. But now we're going to go into the fifth question. In class, we didn't get to discuss Kendrick's most recent album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Pick one song, United in Grief, Father Time, or Mother I Sober from this album, and discuss it with regard to the theme of the chorus, brokenheartedness. What's that about the song? Lyrics, vocal delivery, tempo, speed, instruments, song structure, dynamics, and why did this particular element stand out to you? So we were going to talk about United in Grief. We're not going to have time for Mother I Sober because we're already at like 29 minutes. But you want to start off? Okay, yeah. We'll start off clockwise now. Paige?
Okay, so in the first part of the song, he mentions how he mentions the rap world. Mm-hmm. And according to him and what everyone else is telling him, to be a part of the rap world, he has to have the big chunky jewelry. He has to have the fancy cars and the fancy houses and the the infinity pools and
Yeah.
all that. But then towards the end of the song, he's like, but I've only worn the Rolex once. I only drive the one car. I've never even been in an infinity swimming pool. So you can see, like, to him, rap isn't about the money and the fame and all the luxuries you get. Like, yeah, it's great, but so what?
Yeah.
It's like, he's like, I have all this, but I still feel this way. I'm still going through the guilt. I'm still going through this trauma. And I was just like, I feel like more people need to say that, because all we see is the luxury. Like, we're not seeing what's behind the scenes. And so I think he does a really good job of, like, proving that.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I noticed is that he talks about his mental health, which I feel like a lot of people don't do. And he talks about how he has a therapist. And I'm like, okay, that needs to be out there more. Like, it's okay to have a therapist. And then especially a man to have a therapist, because men are always supposed to be like, oh, like, big man of the house. I don't have feelings. I bring the money home.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's just opening up a lot of touchy subjects to the world in a really nice way, though, not in like a listen to me, I'm like rich and you're not, or whatever. Just like stuff how he says, like, the music industry is evil. Like, I feel like we see a sense of evil happening in a lot of his songs, either through him, through the music industry, and through, like, his fans and whatever. Oh, one last thing. So the part about the girl that I was talking about, Lucy.
The devil.
This is where I saw it. I saw how he was using, I don't even know if he names her, whatever her name is, but he like notices that he and her, like, get intimate to relieve the pain, to make the pain go away.
Talking about green eyes.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then I like how he noticed that it's wrong and it's not even helping him. Like, it's just, when it's all done and over with, it's still there. And I think it just shows that no matter what you can do, you have to go through the grief. You have to go through it all, because nothing's going to distract you from it. It's going to be right there.
Yeah. Darling?
Well, that's what I was trying to say, too. Like, he was saying, like, he was grieving different.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what he meant by that.
I mean, I think pretty much, literally, it was just like, he was dysfunctionally grieving. Like, he was kind of, and I think he was talking about him, but he was really talking about, like, just the people in the black community in general. It's like, we're so easy just to fuck things off. Like, in the literal sense. Like, we will literally just, like, oh, like, had a bad day. Like, oh, I'm going through this, whatever. And then, like, whatever problems we may have, like, say if it's a relationship, it's so easy to just, like, have, like, make-up sex. And then, like, just keep going through that. And then, like, the problem never really gets solved. And when he's saying, like, I grieve different, it's literally just him not even solving it. It's just him being aware of the fact that, okay, I keep doing this. And, like, not, like, he's doing it not even with, like, one person, but he's doing this with, like, multiple different people. And, like, it's like he knows he's doing it, but he just can't, like, not say he can't control it, but he can't change his actions for it. Sammy?
No, let her finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all you had?
Okay, that's what okay, sorry.
I agree with what you're saying about it being so dysfunctional, and I think that Paige makes a good point too about like, coping with the money. Like, he's spending in a way that's, like, attempting to fill this void, but it doesn't do anything, and he's with this woman because she's, like, you know, his match. Like, she gets him in a way because he talks about how they, like, basically trauma bond.
Yeah.
And it's something that's, like, intimate in a different way, and it's also something that he recognizes is wrong, and so he's also not really getting anything out of that. So it's just him repeatedly, like, coping but not healing from anything at all.
Yeah.
And then what I also thought was interesting about this song is, like, the speed of the song is different from the other ones, and I think that it makes me think of his lack of control in the situation.
Yeah.
Like, it's going so fast, like, his life is moving so fast, like, he can't really take the time to figure out how to correctly grieve or correctly heal.
I love the speed of the song.
Yeah.
It's just like, it just catches you so off guard. It's like,
It's just going.
and literally just like, it's just like, to me, it, like, the speed is similar to feel, but like, the beat switches. It's just like, and every time the beat switches, he like changes flow up a little bit, and the speed and tempo change up a little bit, and I don't know. It's just so much to unpack. So like, you have to listen to it a lot to really like listen to what he's saying, because there's just so much going on. Like even the intro, and then it just like the beat, and then he just comes in, and then he just like he comes in so like aggressive. He's like, what does he say in the intro? Well, he's like, what is a bitch in a mini skirt? Many feelings are bitter in her. But like, when he goes in, he actually starts rapping. He was like, He was like, I went and got me a therapist. I can debate on my theories and sharing it. And then it's just like, he just starts literally like, it literally feels like you. He's kind of just like, bam. He's just like off, like he's running like a race. But he's like 100 miles an hour past like everything else, and it's just like, wait, like slow down.
It's like particularly manic.
Yeah, it literally is.
He also recognizes that it is super manic when he hits the line where it's like, I hope my psychologist's listening.
Yeah,
like it's so much like, oh, I'm breaking down.
And that's the thing. It's like, I guess just like relating it back to like brokenheartedness. It's like oftentimes individuals with like mental like health disorders, it's like, they can still be fully aware of the fact that they have one, but still not be aware enough to change it. Yeah. Which is, it literally feels like what Kendrick, like, is portraying. Jamie?
So what stood out to me was the contrast of, like, the title, United in Grief, and then he repeatedly says, I grieve differently.
Yeah.
So to me, that was, like, basically saying everyone grieves, but the way they do so is, like, a very personal thing and can manifest in different ways. And my example is actually for the next question, so I'll connect that point and come back around.
I think that's a great point, though, but Victoria?
Okay, so everyone pretty much covered everything, but I'll make mine quick. So what stood out to me was that I like the piano in the beginning and like towards the end, because it gave it like more of like an airy and like light mood.
Yeah.
And then in the middle, it went to like everyone said, like a fast-paced, like saying everything and like all the guilt and stuff. Also, another thing that stood out to me, this kind of relates to, like, all the other songs, too, but it feels like he, like, continues to try to find a way to cope, and in this song, it's, like, girls and, like, intimacy, like Sandy said. But, like, in other songs, it's, like, substances, like alcohol, drugs, like, anything like that. So, I think that was interesting to me.
I think it's, like, I don't see it as, like, he's trying to lean on, like, just girls to cope. I just see it as, like, that's just a thing that he wants to use to cope with the most, just because of his lustful tendencies. And I guess for me, like, what I'm going to say about the song, it's just, where is it? I'm flipping my time to the Rolodex. I think that's a great line, because like, I didn't even know what a Rolodex was until like the song came out. It's like, what even is that? I looked it up, and it's like a kind of like, it's like a little like calendar thing that like you have. It's pretty much like a little like calendar thing, and I'm like 90% sure that's like a Rolodex. It's not, kinda.
I mean, there's calendars that have a Rolodex kind of situation, but I think that traditionally it's more of like businesses had used them for like contact information and like the people you know and like the things that you do. I mean, there's calendar aspects of them, I suppose.
Well, forget that whole thing then. I just think it's like, I always saw it as like, like Kendrick's like sitting down and like he's spending all of his time like doing nothing. Like, because I thought a Rolodex was like a little like plastic calendar. And he said like, when he says, he says, shaking and moving, like, what am I doing? I'm flipping my time to the Rolodex. I always looked at it as like, okay, he's like doing nothing. But yeah, okay.
I mean, if you're flipping your time through a Rolodex in whenever he wrote this, like, Rolodexes are already way out. So, I mean, he's doing nothing.
Okay.
Like, he's still
you know what? You see, that's actually a great
point. That's like
point.
being like, oh, you know, I'm spending my time just scrolling through my BlackBerry.
Yeah, it's like what? All right.
It's the same effect.
So, Question number 6 is, does Kendrick's music connect to anything else from the class? Why or why not? Be specific. Paige?
Let's go to Jamie first.
Okay, Jamie.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
So my like little connection thing was with Darkness Visible.
Mhm.
Like I feel like the main thing from that was like everyone's depressed, but
Mhm.
we all deal with it in different ways. It manifests in different ways, and I don't remember anyone's names from that what we read. But when he finds out like his friend is depressed and his friend's wife is depressed, like
Yeah.
he's so clouded with his depression that like he can't find the empathy for it. And yeah, I think that like it's like the grief and like empathy and stuff like that connects like with that.
Okay, Sammy?
I think that in a lot of these songs, Kendrick reminds me of Nick Adams in Now I Lay Me,
Mhm.
where he just cannot let go of every single person that he's wronged, every bad thing that's ever happened, and every time he gets into this depressive state, he's just flipping through all of the bad shit, and he's
Yeah.
wanting to carry it all at once in the same way that Nick did, and that would be my biggest connection there.
Okay, I definitely do. I think I relate him to Nick the most. It kind of just seems like. Never mind. You touched on everything, Jarlin.
I think it connects to heartbrokenness because like
Mhm.
he talks about like what he went through when in his infancy. I
Yeah.
would say. And then like his adulthood, all
Mhm.
the challenges he went through that caused him heartbreak. And yeah.
Paige.
I don't know, I feel like I can relate him to everyone we've ever talked about.
Yeah.
Definitely Nick Adams and then Amy Winehouse, but only with the drinking. Like, we don't care much about, like, a love life. Well,
We do know that Amy had like an addictive personality, and like in the same way of like being tempted by others. Like
Yeah.
she was
Yeah.
constantly willing to twist the knife with like sexually,
yeah.
in the same way that Kendrick does to Whitney, his wife.
Oh, the little girl at
Is
the end of
that
the
her?
video. I think it was
I don't even
Whitney.
know his wife's name.
I think it was Whitney.
Okay.
I was searching the web.
Okay.
I know that he mentions it in Mother I Sober
Yeah.
because that would like in his confessional. Pretty
Yeah.
much, he's like setting it free.
I didn't
And then
know.
at the end, it's like the Whitney and then the little girl talking like, "Oh my God,
Oh,
you
yeah.
changed,
Yeah.
whatever." And then the movie we just watched. What's it
Yeah.
called? The Royal
Tenenbaums.
I'm just like,
Fantastic movie, by the way.
it was. Touch on it in the next podcast, but I saw a lot of. It's kind of like the guy. What was his name? Chase, the one in the all red.
Chaz.
Same thing. I just kind of. So with Chaz, he could never let go of
Mhm.
like what his dad did, and then it's like with Kendrick, he's trying to let go, but he doesn't know how to let go,
Yeah.
and he can't seem to find a source to let go. And then I feel like, if, again, for the next podcast, I see a part of Kendrick in every single person in that movie.
Victoria.
I think that Kendrick relates to Amy in the aspect that they're both very vulnerable with their music and
Yeah.
like not afraid to show their emotions, and I think that's like what makes them stand out like in the music industry and such like that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it because like I know in like some other things like in the what's the movie called again? The Royal Tenenbaums?
Yeah.
Margot is very, very like secretive with her emotions and like contrasted to like Amy and Kendrick, like they're both very like they'll tell like literally anything. So I think that's what stands out.
I think Kendrick will tell literally anything. It's just when he tells literally anything, it's just literally everything. So it's a little bit overwhelming, and it's like, all right, it can feel as if, not as if he's saying nothing. It's just so much to unpack. It's like, all right, there's like 10 different situations going on revolving around like lust or like drugs. And it's just like, damn, like I need to like unpack one thing at a time. But I think if I were to draw conclusions, I'd say Kendrick just relates most to probably Amy. Just like their vulnerability. Like you said, they're not really afraid to show anything. Jamie?
I was going to say they're very similar in the way that they both have like, I don't know the word, they both have like these things that are holding them back. They acknowledge that like they need to change this or like this is bad for them, but they can't seem to make that change.
Yeah, like they have the awareness, but like or it's like they're knowledgeable of it, but they're not knowledgeable enough to take active action to like change it. But I think the difference between like Amy and Kendrick is like maybe Kendrick was aware enough to where like I don't know, it couldn't cause him like it sounds bad. Kendrick was aware of it, like at least to the point where it wouldn't cause him to like die. That's kind of, or not aware of it. He had control over it enough to the point where it didn't like fully like take over his whole life. And I think that's kind of where Amy like, because they literally both seem to have the same Sammy?
It is a little bit of a difficult point to make, considering that
it sounds
he kind of also just got really lucky in a way that Amy didn't get.
Yeah.
Considering that there's a lot of him talking about how like people around him died.
Yeah.
Like I think that even he would be willing to recognize that he, in some way, just got lucky to not have died from the things that he was
Most
doing.
definitely. It was just a point like I had to make, but like it sounds messed up. But the last question is, Kendrick's music is the newest addition to his curriculum. Although Professor Diehl has used songs in several courses, do you think Professor Diehl should continue to use Kendrick as an example of brokenheartedness and or depression in future semesters? Why or why not? I'm going to start this one off. I think Professor Diehl should. I think you should keep using Kendrick to examine like brokenheartedness and depression, just because Kendrick not only does such a good job of showing it, but he shows where it can hide. Like he shows it in places you wouldn't necessarily think of, and he shows it in ways that represent people that often go misrepresented or unrepresented, like say like black people or like poor people. But yeah, I'll let y'all take it from there. Paige.
I think you should only because Kendrick, if I spent more time listening to his music, I would have thought of 10 other situations that were going on with him. So I think no matter who you're teaching in the future, they will all have different interpretations. And I think like he's the best kind of person to use for that, because it's such a wide range of what the heck is going on inside his head. Yeah. And yeah, that's all I got.
Colin?
I feel like he should, because like how she said, you can like everybody can interpret it different, because like y'all said some stuff that I didn't even realize was like seen in his music. So I feel like he should keep using Kendrick's music.
Okay, Sammy?
All right. Mr. Diehl, respectfully, if you are going to continue to keep Kendrick in this curriculum, more time needs to be dedicated to it, because unpacking these songs already is hard enough as someone coming in to something that's existed for a long time. There's so much backstory and there's so much lore, essentially, that like it's a disservice to the artist to not know what he's talking about half the time. And even in class, when we're doing so many songs at once, there's a lot to go through with like all the people that he's referring to, and they all have their stories. And like granted, a lot of us maybe don't necessarily listen to Kendrick all the time or frequently, so like we're missing a lot. And I know that like there wasn't really much we could do about missing, you know, the second half of the Kendrick unit, but I just think that it deserves more time.
I agree.
Jamie?
I think you should keep teaching it, kind of for the reasons I said in the first question, was like having like more people in the class being able to connect. I just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Totally went out of my
Victoria?
head.
I think that you should, just like everyone else, still keep using Kendrick, just because I think if you dive deeper into him and his music, then you can like really see like his emotions and everything about this. But yeah, and especially since like he's a well-known name, I feel like people will enjoy the course and like enjoy like learning him and like going deeper into his music.
I think, well, I kind of already started off, but I feel like he should like include all of like TDE, like literally like Ab Soul, Schoolboy Q, J Rock. Like I think he should include all of them, because like, even Kendrick once said that like Absol was a better rapper than him, and like they all touch on similar topics in different ways, and kind of like Sammy said, like it's important just to give, like, Kendrick's just so much to unpack.
So much.
Like, I think you just need to dedicate more time to him. But that was my final thought. Well, and, okay, kind of unrelated, but Mr. Diehl, you should really start including Mac Miller in your course. I'm so serious. It's literally, like, to me, it's, like, just another version of Kendrick Lamar, just, like, different skin color. But, like, it's...
I think that the only issue with that
What?
is going to be with I think the most prominent brokenheartedness is Circles. And, like...
But, I mean, like...
Is it fair to posthumously use Mac Miller when he may not have necessarily... I know that he was there and he made those songs, but, like, they were put out without him. So it's weird to, like...
All the posthumous albums, we can even literally just stop... We can literally just stop.
Oh my God.
We can, like, literally.
We'll talk about it.
All right.
Hold on. Jamie, did you find your thought?
No, it's gone.
Oh, okay. It's gone.
All right.
Do the
All
outro.
right.
Okay. Yeah. This has been What's the Deal? We are way over time, Mr. Deal. We are so sorry. I know we're at like 51 minutes, but we hope you enjoy this. We had a fun time making it. Thanks. Bye.